Hello there and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Philip Duffield and I am a pedagogical consultant with the International and Higher Education team here at itslearning. I want to welcome you all to the webinar. I'm recording and presenting live globally to you all from my home office here in Bergen, Norway. Welcome to all of you from around the world, and these are certainly unprecedented times, so I want to thank you for spending time with me today and itslearning on how we can support students and teachers in the move to fully distant education. Just going to check that everything's working here. Okay, on behalf of the team at itslearning, I certainly want to wish you all well. These are challenging times at the moment. We hope that your families and educational communities are well and taking care of themselves. All right, let's look into the agenda for today's webinar. Firstly, I'm going to introduce some of the challenges that teachers are facing, teachers and lecturers facing moving to fully distant education. And I'm going to give you some tips from my own experience as a former teacher, but also from my work here at itslearning on how video conference and itslearning tools can be used to engage with students. Finally, I'm going to give a live demo of the integration between the itslearning LMS and the Zoom video conference. And I'll finish with some resources and next steps for you all to look at and any questions that you have. So for a bit of housekeeping, the GoToWebinar on the right of your screen, it should have a questions feature. You all are muted today, but go ahead there and type in your questions, and we will save some time at the end of the webinar to cover as many as we can. And if not, we can follow up via email. Okay, so the first challenge that I think teachers in transitioning to distance education are going to face is the amount of time, effort, and skills required to shift from classroom-based teaching through to distance education. So teachers and students, they're both learning new tools. Teachers have spent years building up their units and their curriculums and working toward face-to-face education, and shifting to fully distant education in an ideal world would be a months-long iteration process that takes teachers to develop the course in the best way possible for fully distance education. Obviously, we don't have that benefit right now because teachers and students are learning as soon as possible in distant education. So something with like having easy-to-use solutions is really important. Both Zoom video conference, incredibly easy to use, and itslearning combined offer a great solution for distant education. I also want to talk about the feeling of isolation, and this applies to both teachers and students and even me, who's been at home for a week now. I think teachers in today's classroom, in today's university, they're used to engaging with students physically on a day-to-day level. They can catch students in between breaks. They can observe multiple groups at the same time. And so the distance is really a new challenge for a lot of teachers, especially students as well. They chose on-campus classes, and now they're moving to distant education. So there's challenges there where they're going to have less peer interaction, less interaction and opportunity to meet with their teachers. So big challenges in moving to distant education. And some of the tips that I have for how to overcome some of these challenges is, first of all, when you're using a video conference tool like Zoom, I don't think it's recommended, or I personally wouldn't recommend, to shift the amount of time that you're spending in a physical classroom onto a virtual class. Video conferencing and listening through audio devices is much more taxing on our brains. It takes much more cognitive load. Our learners may not be used to it. So stick to short sessions. Think about pre-recording things nothing at this stage, in my opinion, doesn't need to be perfect. We don't need cinema-like or production-ready content. I think we just need to provide content to students and able to bridge the gap in where we are at the moment. So again, keep it simple. I think we don't need to recreate the wheel, and we don't need to challenge ourselves to use every new tool that's available. So use the existing tools that you have available, like Zoom and itslearning, and don't try not to push students into brand new solutions. I think another tip that I would have is shift some of your in-class activities to asynchronous processes. So you can use itslearning tools like discussion forums and blogs and peer assessment. You can create a discussion forum for all of the questions that students have and get students engaging each other asynchronously. You're going to need to find options for a lot of the activities that you set up in your physical classroom, find options for them in your digital classroom. And luckily with itslearning and Zoom combined, you have a great opportunity to do that. With feeling of isolation, I think smaller groups or breaking students into smaller groups to allow individual check-ins is a really good opportunity for teachers to continue personalizing the education. I think creating virtual office hours, a window each day where students can reach out to you on the itslearning messaging solution or on the Zoom video conferences, for example, and letting students know when you're online and when you're available is really going to help. So we're going to have to move to asynchronous learning here a little bit, but do have some check-ins with the students when possible. Again, encouraging students to use video and audio. itslearning has some great audio and video tools where students can film on their mobile phone and upload directly into the assignment tool or into their blogs or e-portfolios. And all of these tools can be used for personalizing it and trying to bring back some of the interaction that students are missing in the distant or remote teaching environments. So try to encourage that. It's quite simple to get going in there with these modern tools that itslearning has. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop into itslearning to see the Zoom and itslearning integration. Just make sure that everyone can see me here. Okay, so when Runa logs into the itslearning environment, this is pretty typical to all of the itslearning customers out there, organizations and teachers already using itslearning. But if you're coming to us from Zoom, when a teacher logs in, they have access to all of their courses and updates and calendar events from the courses they're a participant in. And Runa today, he's going to work in his language teaching course. Now, one way of integrating Zoom is right here in the course menu. I really like this option because it makes all of the Zoom links, the video conferencing links that are available right here front and center for both teachers and students. And you can see as soon as we click it, using a technology called LTI, Runa is able to work in Zoom directly within itslearning. He can schedule his new meetings for his class group and really easily make a list of all the meetings that students in the class will have. Another option, you can run both types of integration or you could choose one, A or B. Another option is to add Zoom as what we call a course resource. And one way to do that, or one way that Runa can work with that, is via the events. So calendar events are typically pushed into itslearning through a third-party system, but some teachers are manually creating calendar events. Whichever way you do it, the benefit of doing it this way is that when a student has an event, a meeting to take place, in this case a lecture between 8 and 11, They also have access to all of the plans and the resources and the content that is related to these lessons. So if we go ahead here, and I'm going to edit this now on Zoom conference, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a new Zoom video conference meeting for this calendar event. So those of you who use itslearning, this is pretty familiar to you. You have all sorts of integrated applications and activities and tools available. And with the integrated Zoom solution, one of those is the Zoom video conference. So Runa can very easily set up a new appointment. He's going to schedule this one for tomorrow at 9 a.m. And Zoom's really user-friendly. It has a lot of great features here. One that I definitely recommend is muting participants upon entry. That's a really good way to get everyone settled. As you start using Zoom, you're going to look into things like the nonverbal cues that they have. They have really nice hand raising and liking and polling functionality. So a lot of really good possibilities there. And you can see how easy it was for Runa to add a Zoom conference to a specific calendar event. Now, if we look at that from the student perspective, I'm going to log out as Runa, who's a teacher. Look at the student perspective. When John logs in, he can, of course, go into his course. He can see the recently updated things that Runa has created, but he can also use his calendar as a way to understand which classes he has. And when he's viewing his calendar, he can see the plans as well as eventually the web conference tool that's available there. So Zoom is really well integrated into itslearning and really easy to use for teachers and students. Just going to show a quick slide of what the Zoom conference looks like once you've started it. Another reason why I love Zoom is because it's super easy to use. You have your unmute, start video, share screen, your basic features, a very visual experience, quite simple for teachers and students to get to use, and a really good complement to the itslearning solution. Okay, let's see, what are the next steps that we have here? If you're already a user of itslearning and you want to get started with the Zoom integration, please reach out to your key account manager to discuss integrating your existing Zoom installation, or for contact details or the process and how to get started with Zoom. If you're interested in implementing itslearning, please use this link that we have on the screen here, but also look out for the email that we're going to send as soon as this webinar is over or later today. So we'll send out an email with these links and also the webinar recording if any of your colleagues or peers weren't able to join today. Please do follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We're constantly sharing new tips and articles on remote learning, so that is where you will find the best information for you as teachers and students. Okay, I've tried to keep this short and powerful today. I hope you learned some of the challenges and opportunities that we have with remote learning. I'm going to go ahead here and look into the questions functionality to see if anybody has asked something that we can support them here. Okay, so some people ask, what if I can't see Zoom in my current integration or my current use of itslearning? This is an integrated application that your system administrators at itslearning need to install. So If you have a Zoom installation that's not integrated into itslearning yet, reach out to your system administrator, get them to get in touch with their support team. This is something that we can help you with to bring Zoom into itslearning. Zoom is a third-party product, so we're relying on organizations or universities having a relationship with both itslearning and Zoom. Okay, is it free for schools to use Zoom with itslearning? So Zoom does offer free accounts. As a teacher or an administrator, you'll want to make sure that you're in compliance with GDPR and the rules at your organization about asking students and teachers to sign into Zoom. It's always best to go up through your organization before we ask students to sign into third-party products. So make sure you're in compliance there. But there is a free option with Zoom. The actual integration that I've shown today relies on a business level plan. So again, reach out to your system administrator about what type of plan you have. Okay, will Zoom work on a smartphone? Yes, Zoom has apps for, just like itslearning has apps for iOS and Android and so including iPads and iPhones. And I think that's one of the best things about Zoom is it is really, and itslearning actually, is really device agnostic, that both of the solutions work on the variety of tools that students have. So I think those are both, they play really well together, and I think regardless of the tools that students are using, they will be able to use both. Okay, how are you preparing for the increase in usage? This is a good question. Our operations team has been working 24/7 over the past 10 days to get the solution to perform well for all universities. We've had some major upgrades over the past few evenings. We sent quite a bit of communication out to our users about the upgrades. You can always keep an eye on status.itslearning.com to see any updates, but this is very important to us to make sure that we have a reliable service for your teachers and students. So we are doing everything that we can to make the best service, and I can assure you that we are making a great service for students and teachers to use, very reliable over the coming days. I see a new question. Is there a way to use Zoom with student cameras? Okay, but not let students see each other. I see. So I think you're asking, as a teacher, you want students to use their cameras facing back to you, but not see each other. I don't know that that is an option. I think one of the benefits of Zoom is having all students together in a common virtual environment. You could, of course, reach out to smaller groups or individual students and have smaller Zoom meetings to meet that need. Okay, well, I think that's all for the questions that I can see here today. I want to thank you all for joining in today. Please do keep an eye on those resources that I mentioned. We will send out some more information in email to you all. We're continually releasing new content, and thank you for doing what you do and working towards the best education for students. That's great. Thank you for your time today, and best wishes.